Damn, that's the first time I'm seeing that intro. That is slick. Shout out Brian Burns on that one. What's up, guys? I'm Andrew Cooper at Coop Fiasco on Twitter. This is another psychotic solo show for an hour, Coop's Fantasy Football Fiasco. And today we're going to break down all the important usage. Hey, you know what? Actually, Adam Bernard saying he put that together, not Brian Burns. So shout out Adam Bernard, man. What's up? So yeah, dude, we're going to do a solo show here. We're going to break down the usage. And I'll tell you what, uh, Sunday is fun. Sunday is obviously the best day of the week. It's where we hang out. We victory lap, 51 yards, Stone Smart touchdowns, and all the cool plays. But cool plays don't win you a championship. What wins you a championship is consistency. That's how we get it done. Consistency. You need to have guys that you can trust, because if you go out and score 500 fantasy points one week and score 50 the next week, guess what? Your season's over. You need to put together 3 weeks in a row. 3 weeks in a row where nobody drops the ball. That's how you win a fantasy championship. And that's what we're going to do on this show. We're going to go through and tell you who we can trust, who we can't trust, right? Who are the backups that can step up and win us leagues? Who are the ones that can't? And we're going to put it all together. So that's what we're going to do today. That's what we do every single Monday. We pick up the pieces of what happened yesterday and we make it make sense so that we can make all the right moves in our leagues and win the championship. So let's get into it. I see you guys in the chat. Shout out Gabe the Babe. Shout out Chris Alves. Everybody, come on in. Throw questions in there. I'll do my best to answer them. Well, as we go through. Gabe says, just want to share a trade I think y'all will be proud of. Gave away Kenneth Walker and Mandrews for Bijan and Jonathan Taylor. I also have Charbonnet on the bench. Wow, dude. Wow, you traded Kenneth Walker and the guy didn't ask for Charbonnet. That's the ultimate rug pull there, man. Those are the ones you almost feel bad about, because both the guys you gave up got hurt. You got Bijan and Jonathan Taylor. I told everybody, go out, trade for Jonathan Taylor, because his usage got better, went to 88% snap share, the highest he's seen all year last week. I know he's on bye this week, so we'll just talk about him real quick. That was the guy I said go out and trade. So I love that, Gabe the Babe. You did it. You did exactly what the plan is, right? Get the guys that we can trust down the stretch, the consistent guys, get rid of some of these other guys. I mean, Kenneth Walker, inconsistency. That was the whole thing. Forget about the injury. Even before that, he was, giving up snaps to Charbonnet on pass downs. Andrews obviously was a good player. He just got hurt. So what are you going to do? Go out and add Likely too. Just completely dominate that trade if you go out and add Isaiah Likely. So, hey, let's get into it. We're going to go team by team, alphabetical order by city. So starting with the Arizona Cardinals. And I'll tell you what, with this team, we keep getting guys missing games, which is huge for us, because now we know down the stretch who the next man up is going to be, like who the guys are going to be. We can compartmentalize that, file it away, and say, okay, when Michael Wilson's out, Zach Pascal is the guy. But when Zach Pascal's also out, like he was this weekend, Greg Dortch is the guy, right? Pascal's also the only two guys on the team, wide receiver wise, that are over 6 feet are Michael Wilson and Zach Pascal. So they're the go-tos for that particular role. But if they're both out, what they did yesterday is they took Marquise Brown and they put him on the outside, and they took the two slot guys, Greg Dortch and Rondale Moore, and they just had them rotate at flanker and slot. And it worked great. I mean, Rondale Moore scored, Greg Dortch got a bunch of targets. So if those guys continue to be out, Rondale Moore and Greg Dortch moving up a little bit. If Rondale Moore is ever out, we know from last year that Greg Dortch takes that role over. So Greg Dortch, not necessarily a guy you can trust, but now we know what it takes to get him in the game. You need Wilson and Pascal both hurt, or if just Rondale Moore got hurt, he would probably play instead of Zach Pascal because it's the slot role. So information, man. Trey McBride went out, looked awesome, so we don't have to worry about McBride. Played 61 snaps, 38 of 38 routes. Marquise Brown and Trey McBride ran every single route. So I know Zach Ertz is going to come back. Maybe he'll rotate. Maybe he'll take some targets. But I think at this point, Trey McBride really can't go back in the bottle. So, if you have Trey McBride, you need somebody for his bye week anyway, week 14. But still, right now I'm feeling really good about McBride. I'm planning on just starting someone for that bye week and using him rest of the season. James Conner is a stud. He starts, he plays every snap, basically. I don't think Michael Carter is really going to steal too many pass plays here when he gets up to speed. He might take the snaps from Tony Jones Jr., but who cares about those snaps? So James Conner's a guy you can get in your lineup most weeks, right? Next team, Atlanta Falcons. They're on bye. Don't got to worry about the Falcons. Let me get this retweeted here. Do we have a tweet, Adam Bernard, that we can get out to the people so they can get up in here? Atlanta Falcons on bye. Next team, Baltimore Ravens. They played on Thursday, so we already talked about this one quite a bit. But just as a recap, Flowers and Bateman played full snap shares. They both played over 50 snaps. So Flowers played 64, Bateman played 50, right? Uh, Nelson Aguilar played 25. Odell only played 23, but he got banged up a little bit. He still ran 17 of 33 routes. His usage has been so strange. He doesn't play the whole game, but he looks the best, honestly. He got 7 targets. So Odell, even though he's not playing the whole game, that's a guy that I'm probably going to go out and still add. You know what I mean? So yeah, get him going. Bateman, he's not involved enough, man. And what's interesting is he plays a lot of run plays, but he comes out for some of the pass plays. So he played 50 snaps of 65, but only ran 25 of 33 routes. So I really don't trust Rashad Bateman right now. Isaiah Likely is the guy we need to talk about because a lot of people out there are saying, "Oh, he's not good." He shares he's played 2 games with no Mark Andrews this year, and he didn't do anything in them. This week, he got 2 targets, didn't catch either of them. I broke it down on my timeline. Go type in Coupe Fiasco, Isaiah Likely, or just scroll through my timeline to find this tweet. I broke it down with video showing that he was much more involved than 2 targets. Much more involved than 2 targets. The ball that Nelson Aguilar scored on was thrown to Likely, and it got tipped. Aguilar took it to the house. That doesn't count as a target, right? He had the bad drop where he looked away. That's fine. They ran the same play and it worked, and he caught the pass that was holding on John Simpson. That doesn't count as a target. Later in the game, they called a play for him. He was wide open, but the pocket broke down. They didn't throw him the ball. No target there. Next play, Lamar Jackson waited too long to throw him the ball, threw a bad pass. That counts as a target, but he didn't catch it. I mean, in my opinion, there were at least 5 plays that were Isaiah Likely plays, and he played virtually the entire game once Mark Andrews went down. So you're just not going to. Obviously, the floor is a little low because he's not Mark Andrews, but the ceiling, you're not going to find that kind of upside on the wire. So Isaiah Likely is a guy I'm adding. Running back wise, Gus Edwards is still your best bet for fantasy football because he gets the goal line work. But Keaton Mitchell mixed in more. They told us they were going to do it. They did it. He played on a bunch of first downs. He mixed in on some third downs, right? Justice Hill was the one that took the big hit, but Justice Hill basically played all the 2-minute drill. So Keaton Mitchell is difficult to start right now. If he were able to take away that Justice Hill pass down role and at least have that entire role, then we could trust him. For now, though, I'm just starting Gus because only 24 or 65 snaps for Keaton Mitchell, not quite doing it for me. Maybe in deeper leagues. Buffalo Bills, 76 snaps this week. Gabe Davis was the sacrificial lamb. We see this happen all the time versus the Jets. The Jets sit there in zone 70% of the time. Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed, they each have only played 3 snaps in the slot this year, a piece. So we're talking hundreds of snaps played. Only 3 times they've gone in the slot. So that's what teams do, and it works against the Jets. You have your guys on the outside, Gabe Davis, Quentin Johnson the week before, and you just let them get eaten alive by Gardner. And then you move guys like Diggs, Keenan Allen, CeeDee Lamb, you move them into the slot. Michael Carter's a good slot corner, but they sit in zone. So that's how you take this team apart. Diggs got 8 targets doing that. Dalton Kincaid lining up in the slot got 8 targets. So whoever's going to be playing in the slot against the Jets, that's a guy that you can use in DFS and you want to start. Guys on the outside, especially if they're like second fiddle guys like Gabe Davis, don't want to touch those guys because they just get, it's their job, right? It's their job to play out there and they just get crushed. So don't worry about those guys. James Cook had one of his better games, but still he splits with Latavius Murray, and Ty Johnson got like the entire 2-minute drill before the halftime. So it wasn't even just he did get some garbage time snaps, but he got the 2-minute drill in the first half. That was a little weird and not good for James Cook. So James Cook is kind of gets like empty work, if you know what I mean, where he starts, he gets the first down carries, he gets the carries in space, but Latavius Murray gets a lot of pass work. Latavius Murray gets the goal line work. Now Ty Johnson is coming out and getting targets on 2-minute drill. James Cook is a little bit scary to me. I'm not sure I'm really loving James Cook for fantasy football right now. Next team, Carolina Panthers, 59 snaps, so about average. Those keeping track at home, 65 or so is where your most teams will have for average snaps, right? Terrace Marshall was out, so we got Adam Thielen, Jonathan Mingo, DJ Chark. Those were the guys. They played the whole game. You might not believe it because DJ Chark didn't get a single target. He was pretty much invisible, but he played 44 snaps of 59, right? Mingo played 56 of 59, ran 34 of 37 routes. So, he's out there. But Thielen, of course, is the top dog. He has been all year. Tommy Tremble with no Hayden Hurst is a viable DFS play, but I'm not going to trust him in my regular leagues because he even with Steven Sullivan banged up and Hayden Hurst flat out of the game, he only ran 26 of 37 routes, only got 3 targets. So yes, he did score. He is a guy that likes to hurdle. He's fun to watch, but can't really trust that guy. And then with the running backs, Miles Sanders. So we had kind of given up on Miles Sanders. I was in on him big time this offseason. I was completely wrong on that. I apologize to the people that drafted him, but he kind of clawed his way back, man. He's clawed his way back, and he split snaps 27-29. So they split the work right down the middle. 10 carries for Chuba, 11 for Miles Sanders, 15 routes for Chuba, 13 for Miles Sanders. So hey, it's split down the middle, which they have a terrible schedule, and a split like that is awful. So it's actually kind of a worst case scenario. At least before we could use Chuba where we had him. Now you can't use either of them. So I don't know. One of those guys gets hurt. The other one is now a viable guy, but it's tough. And Chris Al's in the chat. I see you guys in the chat. Chris Al's, if I lose, I'll lose this week if DeAndre Swift fumbles 13 times. Yeah, I know. I've had those games, dude. I've had those games where it's like, completely impractical. But hey, maybe. You never know. Jose says he has Logan Thomas and Jake Ferguson with top waiver. Do I add Likely and Njoku both on waivers? I don't know if here's the thing. If you're a front runner, if you're one of the top 2 or 3 teams in your league, I wouldn't use the waiver claim because it's such a valuable piece. Like I would just rather use Logan Thomas and for the weeks you can, and then on his bye week use Jake Ferguson, than use your top waiver claim on the tight end unless you are desperate to win now, right? Because having that claim and be able to block people can be huge at times. It can be huge. Like you never know when a Chuba Hubbard gets hurt and now your opponent needs a running back and they go in to add Miles Sanders and you can block that. That's huge. Or you get to championship week and there's a tight end or there's a defense available that can just put you over the edge and block your opponent. Having that top waiver claim is powerful. So I would hold on to that, to be honest. Next team, Chicago Bears, 75 snaps. DJ Moore played virtually every snap. Darnell Mooney, only 45 snaps and only ran 22 of 29 routes. So couldn't really trust him anyway. So the reality with this team, honestly, is that you're playing DJ Moore, you're playing Justin Fields, and then after that, it's pretty dicey. Even Cole Kmet, we've been warning you guys that at times Cole Kmet will block on 8 pass plays. He did it against the Raiders and he did nothing. They asked him to stay in and block the whole day and just kind of help with Max Crosby. They did it again last week. He blocked on 8 pass plays again, but they threw enough that he was involved. This week, he only ran 19 of 29 routes, blocked on 4 pass plays, and Mercedes Lewis played 30 snaps and blocked on 7 pass plays. So they're kind of asking these guys, the tight ends, to block a little more than I feel comfortable with. So Cole Kmet is not a set it and forget it type guy. Maybe a mix and match type guy based on matchups, but otherwise, I don't know. As far as running backs go, Foreman was the lead back, and then he hurt his ankle, left the game with an ankle injury. He's been dealing with the ankle injury in practice all week. So if he's out, Khalil Herbert is back to being the starting back. It was his job before, but Foreman got pretty much all the work until he got hurt. So Foreman plays, he's actually probably the best start. If he's out, Khalil Herbert's the guy. Roshan Johnson just kept his part-time pass down role. He's just not really viable, to be honest. So I wouldn't worry too much about Roshan Johnson, but Khalil Herbert, you got to keep an eye on him to see what the deal is with this ankle. Otherwise, he probably still Foreman's the guy. The thing with Foreman, though, is he's not a great pass catcher. So you're starting this guy just hoping he can score a touchdown. He's a good rusher, but he doesn't really catch a lot of balls. So not super exciting. Bengals, they played on Thursday. Again, we'll just recap quick because we already talked this game to death. But yeah, Joe Burrow's out. So it's T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd when everyone's healthy. When Higgins is out, it's Trenton Irwin, DFS play at best. We don't use any of the tight ends because Tanner Hudson now runs the most routes, but he ran 18 routes of 41. So, and again, DFS only. And then Joe Mixon's been good. He gets all the usage and you're happy to have him. You start him every week. It's not efficient, but who cares? I do not care. Same thing with Tony Pollard showed this week. I don't care about efficiency when it comes to guys that get every single snap. If you got guys like Rashad White and Joe Mixon and and Tony Pollard, you look around at what you're seeing from the Panthers, where it's a split, what you're seeing with the Bears, where it's a 3-way split. There's so many teams that don't have any viable running backs that by process of elimination, you got to rank these guys top 20 every single week. And every league I'm in has 2 running back spots and a flex. So there's just no leagues where I have Joe Mixon or Pollard on my bench. Or to be honest, Rachaad White. So there you go. Big Daddy Weirdo in the chat saying winning by 14.3. Opponent only has Kelsey. Do you think I can win? Shout out to the Twitch gang. Got to get the Twitch glasses for the Twitch gang. I mean, that's about as as even of a Monday night sweat as you're ever going to get, Big Daddy Weirdo, because we know Kelsey, like 14.3 is what he does. Like that's what he does. If it's PPR, I wouldn't feel so good about it, but like that's like exactly the projected point total for a guy like Travis Kelsey. So you'll be sweating that one out for sure, man. I think you're in trouble. I think you're in big trouble, man. Cleveland Browns, 75 snaps this week. DTR pulls out the ugly win. Howard Bender, shout out to him. Even as the over-under was plummeting, it opened at 38, came down to 35, then to 33. At snap, it was 32 and a half. Howard said on the radio that on Sunday morning, Sirius XM with us, he said, I'm betting the under. I don't care what it is. And it didn't really matter what it was, 23 points. So easy hit for him. But DTR pulled out the ugly win. Cedric Tillman is now Donovan Peoples-Jones. He played 66 snaps, which was more than Elijah Moore's 53, one less than Amari Cooper's 67, and just ran around and didn't really do anything. So, maybe a DFS play, but it's Amari Cooper, it's Elijah Moore, and it's David Njoku. David Njoku, 39 of 45 routes, got 15 targets. DTR likes him. I mean, it wasn't pretty, but this is also a tough defense. So they're going to have better matchups, man. You got to feel good about David Njoku's usage this week. With the running backs, I tweeted out earlier on this. This is the most confusing backfield. There are a lot of backfields where it's just one guy. That's easy. There are some where it's split right down the middle, and they literally rotate one drive, bing, bang, boom, all the way through the game. Then there's some where it's like they got one pass down back, they have one run down back. Even some of the 3 back splits make sense. This one, it changes every week. It makes no goddamn sense. In the past, they've kind of done like a Chubb starts, and then Kareem Hunt is kind of the pass down guy, and then they like keep him fresh and use him as like the closer in the fourth quarter. They've been doing that kind of this year, and Kareem Hunt would get like the goal line work. This week, they just flip it on its head, and all of a sudden, there's no rhyme or reason. They both got 12 carries. They both ran basically 20 routes, and then Jerome Ford gets the goal line touchdown. So it's just predictability is huge. Not having that predictability is kind of the enemy of what we do here. So at the top of the show, I talked about consistency and predictability. This Browns running back situation offers none of that, and it's annoying. And sometimes you just got to throw those guys in where you got them, but I don't know, man. I really don't like it. I do not like the situation with that. Dallas Cowboys, this one you can trust, right? You trust Tony Pollard to be in there every single play. And this week he finally did something in a good matchup. CeeDee Lamb is one of them ones, as he told us. And Brandon Cooks now has come on, and he's playing pretty much the same snap share as CeeDee Lamb across from him. So we can trust that to some degree. Michael Gallup and Jalen Tolbert split. So you got 30 snaps for Jalen Tolbert, 25 for Michael Gallup. Can't really trust that. Maybe DFS. So it's like I like Lambs, I like Cooks, and then we like Tony Pollard. Jake Ferguson, his usage has gotten better in recent weeks. 52 snaps is good, 35 routes is good. So we're cool with Ferguson. It's annoying how they decide to sneak Luke Schoonmaker out. They do the same thing with Peyton Hendershot, who'll be back soon. So there you go. Gabe the Babe points out in the chat for Big Daddy Weirdo. He's got your back. Taylor Swift is supposedly not going to be there. That's what I heard. Unless there's been some change. I guess there was a delay and she did not get back from wherever her tour is. Keep me up to date on that, because that's kind of interesting. The split between how they've been playing with and without Taylor Swift there. But yeah, supposedly not going to be there. Rico Dowdle didn't really play much. I mean, everyone was getting all excited about him, but I don't really care about Rico Dowdle. I care about Tony Pollard. And we started CeeDee Lamb this week when he said, I'm one of them ones, watch out for me. He did score the touchdown. We started him in our FFPC lineup. So let's take a quick second just to go over and look at how we did in the FFPC lineup. We drafted the team with our buddy Herms from Draft Sharks. He was the guest last week. So yeah, let me pull that up and we'll see how we did. I know we had some pretty decent players this week. So let me take a little peek here. Yeah, Steve. So our team on the left is that's our team on the left. On the right is a team that's currently in first place. So, it looks like we're out of 30 people, we're top 10. Looks like we're in like 9th right now with 2 guys left to go. A few of these people only have 1 guy left or nobody left, so we should be able to surpass them. But this team we played, they started CJ Stroud, so did we. We both started McCaffrey. They started Saquon Barkley. Oh, are they outside of their mind? So that's where our mistake was. Not starting Saquon, but we started Austin Eckler, and you can only pick one player from each team. That's the interesting thing about FFPC. So go over there, use promo code Coop. They'll give you $25 when you deposit 35 or more. It's super fun. I honestly like it better than the other ones where you got to have, the convoluted salary and the or drafts or things like that. With this, it's you just pick the one player from each team, put together a team of superstars. I mean, look at this. AJ Brown, Austin Eckler, Christian McCaffrey, CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill. And I mean, look at we got good games. DJ Moore had a great game. Tyreek Hill had a great game. Trey McBride did okay. We could have done better there. Jason Myers went off. Let's go. Defense is where we lost it. We started CeeDee Lamb, so he couldn't use Dallas defense, but Pitt didn't do it for us against DTR. And, he had Brees Hall, Hawkinson. And I mean, we could have easily beat this guy. We both had Tyreek Hill. Maybe we still can. We'll have to see, but he still has a wide receiver and a flex left. We have A.J. Brown and Travis Kelce, so probably starting the same guys here. Britt Flynn in the chat saying that Taylor Swift postponed her Saturday show, moved it to tonight. So, yeah, she will not be there. So, hey, Big Daddy Weirdo, maybe, just maybe, you might be all right. So, maybe I should switch Travis Kelce out for somebody else. Nah, he's the best chief. We're going to leave him in there. So, yeah, go over to myffpc.com. Use promo code Coop. First-time depositors. They'll give you 25 when you deposit 35 or more. We got the QR code right there if you want to just click right there on the screen. Get set up over there. It supports me. It supports the show. It allows us to keep doing this, going through, breaking everything down for you, getting you ready for next week, right? And the best game of the night is tonight with the Eagles and Chiefs. So this week isn't over, but it's nice to go through, look at every single one of these games, every single one of these teams, and just absorb what happened and move forward with the week, right? We want to know what the heck happened so that we can plan for waivers, plan for next week. That's what we're doing today, baby. We're going through and hitting all that. So next team in alphabetical order, Denver Broncos, 55 snaps. Courtland Sutton, all that dude does is score touchdowns. So you got to get him in the lineup. Some of these guys, man, they just got it figured out. Russell Wilson is looking good, and he's finding Courtland Sutton for a touchdown every week. I think it's like, he scored in like 6 of the last 7. So got to get the guy in there, man. Jerry Jeudy, 7 targets, not bad. He played 39 of 55 snaps. I know earlier this year, Sean Payton had an interesting comment where he said it's difficult to get, like people ask, why doesn't Marvin Mims play more? He said it's difficult to get both these guys on the field at the same time. Talking about Jeudy and Mims. I wonder if maybe, Mims is kind of cutting into some of that work for Jeudy. I mean, when you look at it, Marvin Mims this week basically only played in 3 wide receiver sets, and he came out of the game for 2 wide receiver sets in favor of Jeudy and Sutton. So it's not really the case to that degree, but we'll have to keep an eye on that just to see if Marvin Mims can claw some of that work away. No Greg Dulcich. Adam Trotman is more of a blocker. Chris Manhurts is more of a blocker. So it seems like they're doing some sort of like tryouts to see if maybe they can find a pass catching tight end. Last week it was Lucas Kroll. This week, Nate Adkins got, he played like 9 snaps, but 8 of them were pass plays. So I don't know. Maybe they're doing some tryouts for that pass catching role at tight end, but I'm not trusting anybody until Greg Dulcich gets back. So that's where we're at. Javonte Williams on rundowns. Javonte Williams had been looking good. His usage, we were liking it, but now this week was a little sketchy, dude. Before, Williams was playing more in all phases. This week, Williams gave up some pass work. So he got 11 carries, only 1 for Samaje, only 1 for McLaughlin. So we know that they like him there. But P. Ryan ran 13 routes, and Jaleel McLaughlin ran 7, and Javonte only ran 5. So that kind of takes the shine off a little bit. If that's going to be the case, then this split is going to look like Brian Robinson and Antonio Gibson or Tajay Spears and Derrick Henry, where Javonte is just okay, but it hurts his upside. I don't know if I love that. So we'll monitor that, but I don't know. Might want to have other plans if you're really leaning on Javonte. Detroit Lions, 62 snaps total, so kind of right down the middle. Amon-Ra St. Brown is awesome. Josh Reynolds is the next man up. Jamison Williams is the interesting one because he got his biggest usage yet, and Dan Campbell had some very interesting things to say about him. He came out and said, Jamison Williams is part of the herd now, and we trust him a lot, and guys are starting to trust him. That implies 2 things. One, it says that Jamison Williams wasn't trusted before, and also part of the herd. So what? They've got like a second tier of this team. Like you're on the team, but you're not. There's a bunch of guys on the team that aren't part of the herd, right? Or were there 52 guys that were part of the herd, and Jameson Williams was the only one that hadn't been part of the herd? You know what I mean? It's like Dan Campbell's a very weird guy, but I guess that's they're telling us that hey, Jameson Williams earned his right to play a big snap share. He played 40 snaps. Josh Reynolds played 45. Maybe this is where we throw Jameson Williams on some benches and see what happens here. See if maybe he really ramps up down the stretch. I don't know. He might be more of a field stretcher, but very, very telling comments there, to be honest. So I'm kind of interested in Jameson Williams all of a sudden. Yeah. Chris Allen says, hoping they were saving Javonte because there's no point in trying to run into Vikes D. Maybe. Man, maybe they just went full pass down, but I would like to see when that happens, right, with certain players like Alvin Kamara and Christian McCaffrey going up against the Jaguars, well, they just turn and they throw it to that guy, right? In this case, they went out and they had other guys that they put out there. That's the problem. That's a concern. If he had a bad day running the ball and they threw him a bunch of passes, then we would love that. We'd be all on board with that. The concern is that they didn't do that, right? Jack sends in the chat. Our boy Jack Straw says, "Love the Stone Smart jersey." Yeah, Smart with 2 T's. That's a Marcus Smart, of course. One of my favorite players. Sad that he got traded, but man, Porzingis looks awesome. I know this is a football show, but I gotta say, Porzingis 6 blocks yesterday, had an awesome game, including the game-winning block. Tingus Pingus is fitting right in with the Celtics. I'm loving that guy, man. So I miss Smart, but hey, you know what? Only one team got 11 wins in the NBA right now. Go Seas, baby. Go Bruins too. Let's go Boston, baby. Forget the Patriots. This is a Boston sports podcast now, where we don't even talk about we don't talk about the Patriots. We only talk about the other teams. So, are you guys down for that? Chat, what do you say? Boston sports centric podcast where we don't talk about football anymore? We'll think about it. Albert, what's up, brother? Thanks for popping in. Green Bay Packers, 72 snaps. Aaron Jones left the game. We're going to have to monitor that. A.J. Dillon played 52 snaps. Now, previously what they would do is call up Patrick Taylor for the practice squad, but the rules dictate that you can only call a guy up for the practice squad 3 times and send him back down before you have to sign him to the team or let him go. The Packers, when they got Aaron Jones back, elected to not sign Patrick Taylor. So he got signed to the Patriots practice squad. They can now, if they want to get him back, they can sign him back from the Patriots, but they have to sign him to the 53-man roster. Can't sign him you can't sign players off other practice squads to your practice squad. You can sign them, but you have to sign them to the roster. So if Aaron Jones is out for a while, they might be able to sign Patrick Taylor back. The Patriots could also elevate him to the roster and block that. So kind of weird spot, but yeah, I mean, I guess we're back to thinking about A.J. Dillon again. I was kind of happy not thinking about that for a while, but here we go. Watson, Doubs, and Reed are your guys. It's Watson and Doubs on the outside, Reed in the slot. He comes out for 2 wide receiver sets. The interesting thing here is that Reed got 3 carries, and he actually got them before the injury. So maybe Jaden Reed could mix in some backfield snaps, do some pass down work. Who knows? I mean, if he can't pass block out of the backfield, then that's a huge problem, and I doubt he can. But hey, maybe they mix him in a little bit. Who knows? Jaden Reed, kind of a fun player. Just wish he played more. I talked about this on the show on Sunday morning. I said go out in your dynasty leagues and get Jaden Reed and get Josh Downs, because these guys are showing up and making plays on a partial snap share. And if they keep doing that, then they can get elevated to a full-time snap share. We saw Tank Dell went from a part-time player. Now he's a full-time player. We'll talk about him coming up. And now you can't buy him. Now you can't go out and get him. This is like Chris Godwin before he really blew up. Chris Godwin, back when he was getting like 800 yards and was a part-time player, they moved on from Deshaun Jackson and Adam Humphrey, and then he had a 1,400-yard season, was like the wide receiver 2 in the entire league. I think that's possible for Josh Downs. It's possible for Jaden Reed. It's possible for Jackson Smith and Jigba. So that's what we want to see. If guys are failing with full snap shares, that's a red flag, and we have an example of one of those players that we can talk about today. But those guys, go out and get them. Downs, Reed, JSN. Calling for it right now. Last thing on the Packers, Luke Musgrave played 50 snaps. He ran 34 routes, which was the same number as Jaden Reed, same number as Romeo Doubs, just like 2 less than Christian Watson. So he's playing the whole game. It's just that the targets are thin, right? Watson gets 4, Reed gets 5, Doubs gets 6, Wicks gets 5, Luke Musgrave gets 5. AJ Dillon gets 4. Like, if you spread it around like that, you don't really leave room for anyone to have like a crazy huge game. So Luke Musgrave, kind of boring unless somebody gets hurt, to be honest. Houston Texans, 67 snaps. Yeah, Chris Allen, I see you in the chat. I am talking about Quentin Johnson. 100%. That's the guy I'm talking about. So, kind of, yeah, we'll get to him. But yeah, Jaden Reed, they say they want to get him more involved. And, this week they did a little bit dynasty, man. You got to go out and get this guy. First round picks for all those guys I would trade for. I would trade first round picks for all those guys. I don't know if you can still get JSN for first because that's what he was drafted for, but I would do it. I would do it for those guys. Tank Dell, Nico Collins, Robert Woods, those are your guys, but Noah Brown's coming back at some point. I think Nico Collins and Tank Dell are locked in, and Noah Brown will mix and match with Robert Woods. That's what I think happens. That's what I want to happen. That's what I think happens. But Tank Dell and Nico Collins, I think they've earned their usage. They've earned their snaps. I don't think they're going anywhere. So there you go. Dalton Schultz, good deployment, was bailed out with a touchdown this week. And I'll tell you this right now. The most important thing for Dalton Schultz was not his game. The most important thing for Dalton Schultz was what Evan Engram did or lack of doing. And basically, Engram went up against the Titans, only had 29 yards. We were hoping he would go off against the Titans so that we could justify using Dalton Schultz in our fantasy leagues. But if the Titans are going to be good versus the tight end, they've been the second best team versus the tight end all year. They only let Evan Engram get 29 yards. The number one team versus the tight end is the Cleveland Browns. Dalton Schultz's playoff schedule goes Tennessee Titans, Cleveland Browns, Tennessee Titans. If Dalton Schultz is your tight end, you need to go out right now and get another tight end. You need to honestly trade him if you can, and maybe you don't drop him because you might use him in a couple weeks, but you need to have another tight end on the roster because you really cannot start that guy all 3 weeks. I mean, if you do start him, let's say you have the bye week, right? And you don't even need to set a lineup and he struggles against the Titans and it doesn't matter to you because you have the bye week. Are you really going to start him against the Browns and start him against the Titans again? No, you're not. So go out and plan ahead. I know he's been good. I like Dalton Schultz. That schedule is the worst possible schedule that you could make. It literally, if his schedule was the best team versus tight end, the second best, and the third best, that would be an easier schedule than what his schedule is. His schedule is playing the top 2 teams 3 times. Brutal. So be careful with Dalton Schultz. Devin Singletary with no Dameon Pierce is a guy that we're throwing in the lineup for good matchups. I mean, he went off against the Bengals. He just went off against the Cardinals, right? He was terrible in the other matchup. That was a bad matchup. So what are you going to do? Devin Singletary in good matchups. He was carving out a role even before the injury, so maybe he stays viable. And as we've seen with other players like Pat Freiermuth and Greg Dulcich and now Devon Achane, when you come back and play after an injury, sometimes what happens is you aggravate that injury and then the other guy keeps the role. So definitely want to make sure you're holding on to Devin Singletary because who knows with these injuries. Dameon Pierce might not play again. He might play again and aggravate it. So you got to hang on to these guys. Jacksonville Jaguars, we were just talking about Evan Engram. He got 6 targets, 4 catches, only 29 yards. So very scary. That's scary for Dalton Schultz. It is for sure. And Evan Engram himself has been a very safe but boring player. He's been a good yin to our yang tight end where it's like he gets screens, he gets targets, doesn't really do much in the red zone. He will score a touchdown at some point, I got to imagine, but he has not scored a touchdown yet. So, full PPR, you can start Engram. Otherwise, I don't know. I'm still looking for more upside. Christian Kirk and Calvin Ridley both played full snap shares. They both look good. Zay Jones is now going to be the third fiddle unless something happens with that court case stuff. But Ridley, breakout game, awesome game. Ridley and Kirk are guys that I have no problem using those players. They run a ton of routes. They play a ton of snaps. So get him in there. Travis Etienne also playing a ton of snaps, 47 snaps this week. He led in all phases, ran the most routes, got the most carries, got the most targets. So Travis Etienne, got to be happy to have that guy. Kansas City Chiefs, next up, they play tonight. Las Vegas Raiders, 61 snaps. It's Adams, it's Myers, Renfro, Trey Tucker. They don't play enough, so don't worry about those guys. Michael Mayer is just, he's not quite. He's in the land of not quite. For tight ends to have elite and high-end upside, they need 3 things, right? They need to be the best pass catcher on the team. They need to be the starting tight end. That's what Michael Mayer did. The next step is they need to be running a full complement of routes. He's not there. The third step is they need to be a top 2 target on the team, and he won't be there when Adams and Myers are on the team. So basically, what you have now is he's got only done one of the 2 snaps. Surpassing Austin Hooper is the first one, and it's great and it's very important, especially in Dynasty, but it's not there. He only ran 30 of 43 snaps. If this were an elite tight end like a Kelsey or Hawkinson, if you run 43 pass plays, they're running 40 routes and at least running 35. 30 is not enough. So I don't care that he got 5 targets. He's just not playing enough for me to trust him. Josh Jacobs is playing a lot, and we do trust him. 47 snaps of 61. He got virtually all the carries. I think he did. He got the only other guy that got a carry was Trey Tucker. I know Aiden O'Connell had a scramble, but you got to love that. He also ran 23 routes to only 14 for Amir Abdullah. So it's Josh Jacobs' show. These are the guys we want. Jacobs, Mixon, Pollard, whoever's playing, Travis Etienne, guys playing the full workload. Love it. Love to see it because it gives it such a good floor, right? And you don't have to think about game script. You don't have to sit here and say, oh, is the team going to win and the starting back going to get a bunch of carries, or are they going to be losers? So and then now you got a pass catching back coming in. There you go, dude. So yeah, Jacobs, gotta love that. Los Angeles Chargers, 64 snaps, so bang average. Keenan Allen played 60, ran 44 routes, got 15 targets. Love that guy. That's our guy. We love Keenan Allen. Please stay healthy. Austin Eckler looked kind of slow. I don't know if he was tired from playing it so much, and they don't really use much Josh Kelly, but I mean, again, he got 10 carries, he got 31 routes, 3 targets. You start Austin Eckler every week. That's the deal. With Josh Palmer out and all these other guys banged up, Alex Erickson was the guy that stepped up. Jalen Guyton is out. Mike Williams on IR. They're missing a ton of guys. Alex Erickson, former punt returner for the Bengals, he stepped up and played over Darius Davis. He got 1 target. Doesn't really matter. But, if you're looking for DFS dart throws, if everybody's out again, it's Erickson. And, of course, we victory lapped the Stone Smart touchdown. Later today, I will be on Fantasy in Frames because this offseason I promised that if Stone Smart scored a touchdown this year, I would come on their show and do the Stone Cold beer chug thing. So now I got to do that. I really didn't think he was going to he was the deepest dynasty stash player that I had. They're asking me for the deepest sleeper. I really didn't think he was going to score at any point, but he scored a 50-yard touchdown. So we got to do that. But here's the thing. Stone Smart, he only played 22 snaps. He ran 14 routes. Donald Parham played 47 snaps, ran 31 routes. So that's 31 of 44. Can't really trust Parham, man. Can't trust Parham, can't trust Smart, and whenever it gets back, you can't trust any of them. I really don't want any part of this. I know people so desperately want Donald Parham to be a thing. I see Jack Sensen saying Parham season, but again, we just talked about this with Michael Mayer. If there's 44 routes to be run, if I'm going to trust a guy on my fantasy team, I need him running 35 minimum. 38 would be nice, right? That's what is that? I mean, what's at least we need 85% route participation. So that's 37.4. So it's about 38, right? 35 is it's too low because if they don't throw 44 times, if they throw 30 times, now this guy's running 20 routes. Gross. So you got to be real careful with that. I'm not in on Parham. I'm not in on Smart. But Smart is the funnest one to root for because his name is Stone Cold Smart. Let's go. Because Stone Cold said so. Los Angeles Rams, Cooper Kupp left with an injury. We'll have to monitor that. It was Puka. It was Tutu. Usually, I would say, if you had to ask me to guess who the next man up would be, I'd say Ben Skowronek, but it was actually Austin Trammell. Do with that what you will. He got 5 targets. Tutu out was a field stretcher, so, I mean, I don't know. Austin Trammell, if Cooper Kupp is out for the rest of the year, how deep's the league got to be? Probably really deep, but that's the name, Austin Trammell. He played 46 snaps and ran 20 routes. I mean, Puka and Tutu ran 29, but I mean, we got to know these names. That's the next man up. Tyler Higbee, can't trust that guy. 24 of 33 routes, only 2 targets. No Tyler Higbee. Never trust a tight end named Tyler. I said that on Twitter the other day. All of them. Tyler Eifert, Tyler Conklin. I don't care. I don't trust those fellas. I said it on Sunday morning. I jinxed this into happening. I said, who in their right mind would start Royce Freeman? And of course, Royce Freeman comes out and gets 17 carries and runs 16 routes. We know McVay is willing to be one of those hot hand coaches, super annoying. Hot hand Shanahan used to be before he had Christian McCaffrey. So I don't know, man. Hopefully Kyron Williams comes back and saves us. But right now, I'm not starting Henderson. I'm not starting Freeman. Maybe Freeman is the hot hand now. Did Henderson get hurt? Anyone got an update on that? I checked all the injury news. I didn't see anything, but that is no good. No bueno. We don't want to see that. We want predictability. We want consistency. We don't want randomly having one guy get the hot hand and get all the work. And that's how you lose your fantasy league. It sucks. Miami Dolphins, they played 70 snaps this week, so a little bit above average. Nothing crazy, nothing to really think about. There were a couple that I'll point out that were well above average, and we do need to think about it and how it affects the numbers. But this one, right in the middle, Devon Achane basically came in, landed on the knee he had hurt before, the same knee, and said that it hurt, and they took him out. So that's scary stuff. You obviously you knew that was a possibility when you started him. Raheem Mostert played 55 snaps of 70, 29 routes run, 22 carries. Salvin Ahmed was merely a backup. So if Achane's out again, it's back to Mostert season. Let's go. Durham Smythe was out, so it was like Julian Hill and Tyler Kroft. They combined for one target. Don't worry about that. Maybe Julian Hill DFS crazy deep dart throw in games with no Durham Smythe, but we know who the main characters are. It's Waddle, it's Hill, it's maybe Cedric Wilson sometimes. So there you go. Minnesota Vikings, 74 snaps with no Justin Jefferson. It was Osborne and Addison at the top, as expected. When JJ gets back, it'll be interesting to see if it goes back to being JJ and Osborne with Addison as the third fiddle, or if it'll be JJ and Addison with Osborne as the third fiddle. That's the question of the day, and we're going to find out next week, and we'll break it down on this show. I'll let you know what the deal is, but I would love to see it be JJ and Addison, but that is fantasy wishing to some degree. You can't get too wrapped up in what we think should happen because of the fallacy of rational coaching, where we think that they'll do what the numbers say, they'll do what we want, they'll go with what we believe is the right idea. That gets us in trouble. And I worry about it with guys like Dalton Kincaid, with Dawson Knox coming back, and Trey McBride with Zach Ertz coming back, is that we think that these coaches are going to do what we want in fantasy world, and they don't do it. So be very careful with that. Maybe it could be Osborne and JJ with Addison as the third fiddle. It's entirely possible, but I'm hoping it's not. New England Patriots, bye week. New Orleans Saints. Now we go alphabetical order by city. This is the new section right here. So New England Patriots, bye. New Orleans Saints, bye. New York Giants. What the heck? Tommy DeVito, hey, did you see when he threw the touchdown pass? He threw up this. He was like, hey, I love it, dude. I mean, and I'll tell you what, dude, Daniel Jones, done with him. I'm done with him. I mean, Daniel Jones, since his rookie year, so the last, 3 years, he has not had a 3-touchdown game. And then Tommy DeVito manages to throw a 3-touchdown game. I know it was basically just giving the ball to Saquon Barkley. That's how they won, which is great. But, I mean, how does Tommy DeVito walk in out of a bed that his mother made and throw 3 touchdowns when Daniel Jones hasn't done that since his rookie year? I don't know. Done with Daniel Jones. Darius Slayton got hurt, so we saw Wan'Dale Robinson and Jalen Hyatt get the most snaps. That's fun. Sterling Shepard and Isaiah Hodgins mixed in as well, but I'm rooting for Wan'Dale and Hyatt. They are the most fun for fantasy football. Wan'Dale got a little carry, which is cool too. But yeah, again, with Tommy DeVito, we're not going to just all of a sudden trust these guys. Daniel Bellinger's useless. So until Darren Waller's back, don't worry about a Giants tight end. New York Jets, 56 snaps. Garrett Wilson led, 8 targets. Xavier Gibson, who had been playing primarily slot only in 3 wide receiver sets. Yeah, I see you. Producer in the chat, Adam Bernard says DeVito earned the homemade sausage and peppers yesterday. Yeah, big time, dude. The big serving with the good gravy. That's where he's at. So Wilson, Xavier Gibson, and Allen Lazard, but Gibson played over Lazard. I didn't see a Lazard injury or anything. Doesn't really matter because you're only starting Wilson and Breece Hall and maybe the Jets defense from this team. But yeah, there you go. And Zach Wilson got benched. Tim Boyle came in. So could be a good point, Jack, where if Tim Boyle's been working in practice with Xavier Gibson, then maybe that's the way they went. Maybe they say, hey, you know what? Tim and Xavier got a couple tricks you've been using on the practice squad, then get them going. See if they work here. So that does happen sometimes. Philadelphia Eagles are on Monday Night Football. Don't worry about them. And Pittsburgh Steelers, 64 snaps. George Pickens played 53. Deontay Johnson played 49. Allen Robinson played 45. So much for George Pickens being benched or not a starter. I mean, like last week they didn't announce his name with the starters, but he played the most snaps of any wide receiver. So I wouldn't worry too much about all that business. Pat Fryermuth returned, but did not play the full game. Only ran 14 of 33 routes, only got one target. Played the number one defense versus tight end in the Cleveland Browns. So what do you expect? Going to be tough to trust Fryermuth until we see a full game from him. So we're keeping him on the bench until I see him go out and actually run again 14 of 33 routes. That's not even half. I need him to be, if they run 33, I need him running 28. So we'll keep an eye on him. Najee Harris and Jalen Warren split again, pretty much down the middle. 12 carries for Najee, 9 for Warren, 12 routes for Najee, 11 for Warren. But Warren broke off the big touchdown, so he's the big hero. And he's playing better. So it's still a split. Until that, it has not changed. They still split it, but I don't know. Jalen Warren just looks better, man. It looks great. San Francisco 49ers, 60 snaps. Kittle had his best game, and it's a huge game for Kittle because this is the first time this year when everyone's healthy, he's had more than 3 catches. No joke. He got 9 targets here. In the other games, even though he had 3 touchdowns versus the Cowboys, he had the big touchdown last week. Still, first time he's had more than 3 catches. So this is a huge game for him. If you were banking on George Kittle, he ran, and this is what I'm talking about. They ran 31 routes as a team, 31 pass plays, dropbacks. He ran 28. That's what I want to see. That's what I want to see from my tight end. So George Kittle, get him in there. But again, just be careful because we need 3 games in a row. If he comes out and has 9 targets this week and next week he has, 2, he's got 2 games this year with 1 catch. That's how you lose in fantasy football playoffs. So, but you could do a lot worse than Kittle with all the injuries and stuff going on. Seattle Seahawks, 65 snaps. Lockett had an injury, so he was limited. So JSN played over him. He played 44 snaps. Lockett played 36. But if everyone's healthy, it's the other way around. I don't think this is some changing of the guard. I think Lockett's just got a hamstring issue. So that's the case. DK Metcalf led the team. He's a split end. He's going to play every meaningful pass play, and he's awesome. Tight ends, don't worry about him. If you had to pick one, it'd be Noah Fant, but he only got 2 targets. He ran 24 of 42 routes, so don't care. The big news out of this one, of course, Kenneth Walker, oblique injury, and it was described as a legitimate injury by the coach, so could potentially keep him out. If that's the case, Zach Charbonnet getting a lot of work, 15 carries this week, 31 routes. He already kind of carved out that role. The problem is the schedule's terrible for this team. But, I mean, he played 55 of 65 snaps. DJ Dallas played 7. So they didn't even pretend like they were going to use DJ Dallas. They just used the one guy when Kenneth Walker went out. So if he's out for a while, Charbonnet is the guy. He's definitely the top waiver ad this week. No question. I don't care if his schedule's terrible. If he's going to be playing the whole game like this, getting 15 carries, 6 targets, he got 6 of 6 targets. Got to be going for guys like that. You only get so many opportunities. If you've been sitting on Fab all year, this is the moment where you just drop the bag. I know he's owned in a lot of leagues, but now's the time. And shout out Britt Flynn, who's been telling us to add this guy for a while now. So you should already have this guy. But if you don't, if you're in a shallow league and he's out there, you got to drop the bag on him. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 71 snaps. Evans, Godwin, Palmer. That's the deal. All 3 play a bunch. Palmer getting some targets. He's a guy we already talked about. You got to be going out and getting in Dynasty because we don't know if Evans is going to be back. We don't know if Godwin's going to be back. But Palmer's under a rookie contract, right? So he's going to be there. And he's been the third fiddle, just like Godwin was the third fiddle for a while. But they like this guy. He's playing a lot. I mean, it's like Chris Godwin led with 41 routes. He got 8 targets. Mike Evans ran 40 routes, got 11 targets. Trey Palmer ran 39. 41, 40, 39. He's right there with these fellas. And Cade Otton, he played virtually every snap, and he ran 45 routes, more than anybody else. He got 5 targets. So, and it was a terrible matchup versus the 49ers. So Cade Otton is another guy that was dropped in a lot of leagues after he played the Titans, who we already told you was a very good defense versus tight end. Nobody was picking him up to start him against the 49ers. Now you go out and pick this guy up. I trust this guy who plays the entire damn game and runs all the routes. I trust him over a lot of these other guys. And before these bad matchups, he got 6 targets, 9 targets, right? So Cade Otton, priority tight end ad this week in a lot of spots. Go get him. I trust him over Parham. I trust him over all these other guys, like all these other losers, Michael Mayer. Like, he's just much more trustworthy. He may not be super exciting, but he plays the whole damn game and he gets a few targets every game. It's, He's not gonna kill you. And if one of those guys gets hurt, Godwin or Evans, now it's Palmer versus Otten for a difference-making role. There's no difference from what you're getting from Cade Otton than what you would get from Dallas Goedert. It's essentially the same thing. Guy's got a decent floor, and if one of the wide receivers gets hurt, he goes to the moon. I know Goddard's got a broken arm, but there's not a huge difference. So there you go. Tennessee Titans. This is the one I was talking about where average game is like 65 snaps. They only played 40 snaps this week. So very weird game script. And you can't just look at this and say, oh, well, 5 targets for Hopkins. Nobody else got anything. It's like these guys just suck. That's actually not really the case. It's just very, very weird game. 40 snaps. So DeAndre Hopkins only played 25 snaps, right? Chris Moore played 30. All these guys are mixing and matching. So DeAndre Hopkins is still a guy. Chris Moore and Nick Westbrook-Akine and Kyle Phillips I could do without. But just like you're still going to start Hopkins, which is a very weird game. Chig Okonkwo is a scary one that they're using rookie Josh Wiley. They're mixing him in. Okonkwo only ran 8 routes. Wiley ran 7. So yeah, I thought Chig was going to take a big step this year. Took a big step backwards, unfortunately. So my bad on the Chig call. We're not liking he's falling way off here. We got to move him way down. Derrick Henry, he got the most work in all phases, 10 carries, and he ran 11 routes. So I thought it was going to be a Tajay Spears game. It was not. Washington Commanders is the last team on the slate here, which is good because we got to get out of here before Britt Flynn comes on next with Britt's Blitz. So stay right here on this same channel, man. We got good content for you pretty much all week from 1 to 3. We own 1 to 3. And, when you put together with the shows that we have going from, 1 to 6, and then you have Howard's show with Jim Bowden on the Sirius XM, and we do the preview shows. We got content for you all day. And definitely check out my show on Fantasy and Frames at 7 o'clock today, where I have to drink a couple beers because I made a stupid statement in the offseason about Stone Smart. And then he scored a touchdown. So, kind of a punishment as much as it is a celebration. Washington Commanders, 81 snaps here. So Titans ran 40. The Commanders basically ran double 2 games worth of plays compared to the Titans. That's the reality of these stats. And when you look around and you see 8 targets for Logan Thomas, 7 targets for Terry McLaurin, 4 for John Dotson, all these guys getting 3, Byron Pringle 3, De'Ami Brown 3, Brian Robinson 8. Like that's why that happens, because it was a different game script, a more fast-paced game. The team drops back more than any other team, the Commanders do, so that's how you get that. But the reality is that Curtis Samuel got kicked out of the game, so Jamison Crowder stepped up, and Terry McLaurin and Dotson were the full-time guys. But the guys I trust are McLaurin, Dotson, and Logan Thomas. 43 routes for McLaurin, 41 for Logan Thomas, 40 for Dotson. Nobody else really ran more than 20 or so. So those are your fantasy relevant guys. And with no Antonio Gibson, Brian Robinson played 63 snaps. So when Gibson's out, Robinson is the real deal. 17 carries, 37 routes, 8 targets. Gotta love that for B-Rob, man. Gotta love that usage. I don't know what the deal is with Antonio Gibson, how long he's going to be out, and what, when he'll be back. But for that particular, whenever he's out, Brian Robinson is like a dialed in high-end RB1. And I know this was the New York Giants, but hey, you know what? The Giants won the game. So you don't get to play the Giants every single week, but still, Brian Robinson is a guy that I didn't really love him because of the splits with Antonio Gibson at times, but now we definitely do like him, So that's it. That's the setup. Tonight we got the best game of the week. We've got the Eagles at Kansas City Chiefs at the Eagles. They're going over to Philly. No Taylor Swift was allowed to be played all week on the radio over there, which I think is pretty funny. But yeah, so get excited for tonight's game. Go over to myffpc.com. Use promo code Coop when your first time deposit $35 or more. They'll give you $25. The pro tip is deposit $45 because the contests that we play are $35 an entry, or you can do $200, but I like the $35 ones. $35 30-person contest is kind of the sweet spot in my opinion. If you deposit $45 and they give you $25, that's $70. Get you in for 2 of these contests. And we're going to be playing all year. Every week on Friday we make a lineup, and that's not even their best contest. Their best contest is the playoff contest, because that's the same setup. That's like their flagship contest. That's the same setup as this, where you can only use one guy per team, right? and I'm talking playoffs as in not fantasy playoffs, but real NFL playoffs. You can only use one guy per team for the weekly one, which is cool and all. But for the playoff one, you can only use one guy per team, and it's set for the rest of the year. So you have to kind of first plan out who you think is going to make the Super Bowl, right? And then prioritize like the quarterbacks and running backs on those teams. And then at wide receiver, you maybe are thinking, okay, who's gonna make it to the NFC Championship or AFC Championship and get those guys going. And then you got to think to yourself, okay, who of these teams is going to get eliminated that who their kicker might have a good game or their defense might have a good game, right? The strategy for that is next level. We're definitely gonna when we get to that point, plan out some cool strategy stuff for that. But that'll be fun. This week, I'm going to make a team and make a video and post that, but there's going to be no Friday show, no Friday guest show this week because I'm traveling with the family for the holiday. We're bringing the baby, we're bringing the dog, we're going down to Cape Cod. So no Friday show this week, but I will post a video with an FFPC lineup so that you guys can check that out. So if I don't talk to you guys, I mean, we're going to be doing the shows with Howard. And we're going to do lightning round. We're going to do cookouts. So we got a ton of shows this week. So check all that out. And we're going to have a free preview of all our DFS stuff. And we're going to give a free Thanksgiving DFS slate for every position tomorrow. And all that's going to be free. So make sure you check that out, fantasyalarm.com. The Freeview Thanksgiving slate, my tight end article, John and Pemba's QB coach. We got Colby Conway and Justin Vreeland and Dan Malin doing the wide receivers and running backs and defense. We take it very seriously. That's going to be free this week, so check that all out. Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you, Adam Bernard, behind the glass, making the awesome intro and setting everything up. And we'll see you guys for Coop's Fantasy Football Fiasco next Monday. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Have a good week.